You have to know those basic concepts first. If you don't have it set up on the front end where you have the digital billboard concept, and you don't have the right content, and then you don't have like a gateway to get them there, and then you don't have a back end to fulfill on, then no matter what else I say, it's not going to work. Instagram's a gold mine. You just got to do it the right way.
This is The Fighting Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to change the world. Learn how to start, build, and scale a business in today's highly competitive business environment. Here's your host, The Fighting Entrepreneur, Anik Singal.
What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? Welcome back to another episode of The Fighting Entrepreneur. And we've got another great guest with us today, and we're going to continue talking about Instagram. Why? Because it's what I'm currently interested in. And you know the theme of this podcast, right? What I do is I go out and I find the top of the top of the top in their game, and I basically ask them questions to learn myself. We cut through the fluff. We get through the nonsense. We don't talk about story the whole time, just in the beginning, a little bit. But after that, it gets to actionable advice. If you're listening to this while you're driving or jogging, that's awesome. But you're going to want to come back and grab some notes or take our notes. You can go to anikpodcast.com. That's A-N-I-K podcast.com, anikpodcast.com, and you can grab all of our show notes there. Please make sure you go to iTunes, hit subscribe, and leave us a review as well. So today is, how do I get my first 1 million Instagram followers? You know what? The title right now reads 100,000 on my notes, and then I've decided, screw that. I want to scale. I want to hit 1 million Instagram followers. I have 25,000 right now, so our guest has got their work cut out for them. And let's talk a little bit about our guest. His name is Alex Lombard, and I, could read you his bio and all that, but I'm not going to do that. I want to tell you the story of how this even got booked. So I don't use Instagram much, obviously, because I have 25,000 followers. And I was on there playing around. And all of a sudden I saw this message from Alex, and he was offering to help me with my Instagram. Now, I'm not, it's not like I don't get messages like that all the time on all the various platforms, but this one was different. This one had the right names. He was working with the biggest brands. And I thought, man, this is something. So I've followed up with him. But I did it on Facebook, a platform I'm more native to. And we hit off a conversation. And I said, can you talk on the phone? I want to get a couple of my team members in here. And he said, yeah, let's do it. And I wish I had recorded that call, because it was a powerhouse of information. And he just blew me away, gave me an exact plan of action on how to get to 1 million followers, had all the details, the numbers, the stuff that we love here at The Fighting Entrepreneur, all the data. And I remember at the end of it, I was like, can you please do that all over again? But this time I want to get it recorded. And he was gracious enough to do that. He's worked with some of the biggest brands in the world and helped them with their Instagram and a lot of their marketing. So Fighting Entrepreneurs, put your hands together and help me welcome into the ring my now friend and Instagram genius, Alex Lombard. Man, how you doing?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. Thanks so much.
No, man, the honor is all ours. And, you were mentioning right before we started that you've been a little under the weather, but you're still here and you made it. And you know what that makes you?
Fighting entrepreneur.
Fighting entrepreneur. Exactly. Oh, man.
I love it.
Everyone in the room knew where I was going with that. That was being crazy. All right. So, Alex, there's a tradition here at The Fighting Entrepreneur. If you could, it's very important for me that you do this. If you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Alex Lombard.
I, Alex Lombard.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
To tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
And to help Anik get to 1 million Instagram followers.
And to help Anik get to 1 million Instagram followers.
Yes, I got it on video. I got it on audio. We are Europe. Man, that's awesome.
Go time.
So much. You know what, Alex, before we get into the meat, right? So give everyone a quick synopsis. Alex is going to talk today about all of the hacking ways. All good stuff. No black hat. We don't do none of that. All of the growth hacking ways to grow an Instagram following. We'll talk to him about post schedules. We'll talk to him about all the cool tweaks that you can make on an Instagram profile. Like he had seen mine and goes, why aren't you using this feature? I was like, I don't even know it exists. So we're going to talk about all of that here. And then, of course, the key theme of the podcast being how do we get Anik to 1 million Instagram followers. But before we do that, Alex, man, tell us a little bit about your story. Were you born a ninja Instagram marketer, social media genius, or, is there a story behind how you got there?
Yeah. No, obviously wasn't born into it. I'm 27 years old, about to be 27 years old. I live out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. But I got into Instagram actually about 6 years ago, and it was right at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. I got started in a direct sales company as kind of my first leap into entrepreneurship, kind of before I found like the digital side of things, social media. And to make a long story short, at that point in time, I was in a position where I needed to make sales and, bring on some recruits for my team. And somebody actually showed me Instagram, and they were like, hey, you should look at this to market on and use it to, bring over and attract over people. And at the time, the guy who showed it to me was on my team. He had about 5,000 followers on Instagram, which, 6 years ago, that was insane, especially to me with, zero. And he was kind of showing me a little bit of what he was doing and how he was making some money and how he was getting stuff for free and, had a little bit of credibility. And that just ignited something in me. Like I saw that, and it really just, it showed for the first time in my life that you could actually use social media to build a business, build a brand, and make money. And so when I saw that through my friend at the time, about 6 years ago, that's what really started everything. And then it just kicked off, a 6-year journey. So it's been awesome.
That's crazy. And tell us a little bit more about the kinds of brands you've represented and the kinds of work you've done. You're a very humble person, but man, brag, take a moment.
Sure. So I love that. Thanks for that. Something I definitely, I guess, pride myself on. But anyways, yeah, I mean, with my company, I run a digital marketing company, and a huge portion of that is social media, specifically Instagram. That's kind of where our sweet spot is. Our primary client is a 6, 7, even 8-figure earner who's just absolutely crushing it in whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's network marketing, real estate, insurance, or just building a personal brand, e-commerce, even some traditional business owners. And the idea is to help those people who actually have real tangible results in their life, help them take that and then turn it into real credible influence, if you will, through a brand on Instagram. That's kind of the whole purpose of our program and really what we strive to do. There's a lot of companies out there that kind of make their money off of just your everyday person paying $10 a month or whatever that just want to get some followers, and that's just not really what I don't really believe in that. I think it's more powerful and it's better for the ecosystem, if you will, to help the actual successful individuals in this world take that and portray that through a brand on Instagram. And so that's kind of the overview of, what we do and kind of how it works. And then just mixed in there, there's, a lot of cool companies, names, businesses, brands, things like that. So.
That's awesome, man. Well, I got to selfishly ask you. So the business I'm in, I teach entrepreneurs. I love digital marketing. Is the stuff you're going to share today, is it applied to me? Do you have clients like me in your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're speaking to one of them, in a little bit of a different realm, but digital marketing, man, social media marketing, entrepreneurship. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'd say 80 to 85% of the 600 plus clients that our company and our partners work with are in the business entrepreneurship kind of realm. And then a lot of those, I don't have a percentage, but a lot of them are in the digital marketing side of things. And obviously that's a pretty big world, but within that world, a lot of them lie in there and we help them do that. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready. If you're ready to kick it off into round number 1, I got my questions ready. You ready? All right. Round number 1. Let's talk data. I got 25,000 followers. It's kind of sad because I have over 1 million people on my email list. I've been around forever. But the cool thing is I didn't really do anything to get those 25,000 followers. Yeah. So my question to you would be, how do I know if my page is good? Like, let's say I'm about to kick off my campaign tomorrow. I'm going to march towards 1 million people. But I mean, I don't know who follows me. Are they even responsive? Is it too late? Did I ignore them too long and Instagram doesn't give me a chance at even making it now? So talk a little bit about how anyone who has a page could evaluate it.
Yeah, sure. It's a really good question. And I get asked that a lot, honestly, because there honestly are, there kind of are a few different things, with Instagram, with social media in general. It's not always just super black and white because some people, they perceive something as valuable and then somebody else looks at that same thing and they don't see it as valuable. And so, for example, one of the biggest things that you can look at when it comes to Instagram specifically is your engagement, your overall just engagement on your posts, your stories, your videos, all that kind of stuff. And really just number one, is it there? Are you getting engagement at first off? And if you're not, if you have 25,000 followers and you're getting 10 likes, well, obviously something's wrong. But engagement is the social proof factor. That's really kind of the that'll allow you to know if your posts are reaching people and if your audience is actually engaged with who you are, what you're doing, the story you're telling. And so a really good way to kind of look at that is, like I mentioned, your posts, obviously, your videos, and then your stories. And so people always ask, a firm number. They always want to know, like, well, how much engagement should I get, per followers, let's say, like per 1,000 followers or whatever. And if you look at every single ebook out there, every single course out there, every single guru out there is going to tell you something different, because again, Instagram doesn't have a black and white, like this is right, this is wrong. But to give you kind of a generic answer in terms of what you can kind of set a standard as, is a lot of people use the 2% rule, where if you get about 2% of your followers engaging with you in the form of views and overall just impressions, so just your comments, your likes, your views, kind of all put together, that's really solid. Like that's really, really good. Anyone who says more than that, they have a pretty viral brand, that honestly I don't think will last very long, because the algorithm is pretty difficult, nowadays on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, the 2% number is a pretty solid number you can look at in terms of just overall engagement compared to your followers. The one little thing I will say on that though, is that, as your account grows, and this is another big misconception, is, if you have millions of followers, well, you're definitely not going to be hitting that like 2% rule. I mean, if you go look at some of the celebrities out there, these guys, 100 million followers or whatever, they're not getting 2% engagement off of that 100 million. They're getting way less than that, but they're still getting a lot of engagement, so it only does apply until you get to a certain threshold, usually around like 500,000 plus is really where that rule kind of starts to fade out. But the last little thing I'll say on that really is you'll know your audience is engaging truly, I believe, through your stories. And we can talk about stories more too, a little later, but your stories is a great way to kind of look at that, because no one's going to really want to watch your stories and engage with your stories if they don't like you or want to engage with you in the first place. So yeah.
Got it. Well, so, I was on my phone, by the way. I wasn't being rude, in case you could see me.
Oh, that's okay.
I was pulling up my profile. My Instagram is Anik, just A-N-I-K. If you want to go follow me, go for it. But I was just trying to see, like, what do I get? And so 2% of 25,000 would be 500, right? So total engagement between comments, likes, and all of that. So I'm trying to find like the latest like video I did or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, so my last video had 2,000 views.
There you go.
So that, in your eyes, that's good.
Yeah, no, that's not bad for where you're at. That's not bad.
I have a video where I'm wearing a like this whole like samurai outfit and I'm chopping something, and I
saw that.
So apparently cool. Apparently my serious stuff doesn't get as much views as my nonsense stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So 2% the gauge. We're going to talk more about, we'll talk more about videos and stories and just posts. So 2% is, now let's say someone has a Instagram page right now. What's it called? Profile. Yeah. And it doesn't, it's a smaller audience, but it's only got like a 1% or a 0.5%. As someone who consults so many people, what is your advice to them? Are you like, hey, we got to start fresh, like this isn't worth it? Or is there a way to resurrect a page back up to 2%?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it definitely it can be difficult depending on the brand. That's another thing to keep in mind, is that every brand really is different. Like if you're talking about a travel page, let's say, that's just posting a bunch of viral high definition photos, that's going to be a lot easier to kind of resurrect and boost up over somebody who has a personal brand that's related directly to them. Because it's a lot easier to get the average person to relate to a travel page than it is to relate to Alex Lombard, who they don't know, And so that comes into play, but to answer the question, what I coach on a lot of times is with the face value of your brand. There's a few things that are just kind of like keys that you have to do. And what I mean by the face value is like what people see when they come over to your account and they type in, Anik on Instagram, what comes up? What do they see? And the main things that I talk about on there is really, number one, you need to be, and this is such a huge mistake, you have to have a clear message to people. When they come over to your account, they need to know we live in such a fast-paced society. They need to know within a second or two what they're getting. What value are they getting by following your account? And you need to paint that picture. You need to have that through, and it comes through your content. The type of content, the captions, the way you set up your bio. Obviously, we can go super in depth into all of that stuff. But overall, you need to have a clear picture overall of what your account is giving them. What value is it going to bring them when they come over and follow it? So, like for example, I have an account, the one I messaged you from, the Success Club, and that page, it's very simple of what it is. It's a motivational, inspirational quote page. That's all it is. When someone comes over, they know that within a second, they know that that's what they're going to get. They're going to get some motivation for the day. And so when somebody comes over to your account, they just need to be very clear that the message needs to be clear, that they know what they're getting, and then they can make the decision if it's worth it or not. And so that's number one. And then number two would be engaging back. That's another big thing. If you want to boost up your engagement, you get what you give, right? It's just the, old ancient philosophy. And it's true though. If you're never commenting on other people, if you're never responding direct messages, if you're never liking other pages, you're not really going to it's going to be hard for you to really revive that, And so you got to be active. You got to be active.
Guilty as charged. All right. Yeah. So we got have clear message, engaging back. Anything else to help resurrect the page?
Yeah, the last thing I would say is being active on your platform in terms of not only engaging, but also active on just Instagram's terms. So posting, putting up stories, showcasing whatever it is your brand's all about as often as you can. So putting up content, we have clients that come to us and, and even you were kind of saying this yourself, but like, they haven't even posted in 6 months, and they're like, I don't get why my engagement's dropping. And I'm like, well, there you go. There's your answer. And Instagram rewards people that are active. That's how the algorithm works. And so you have to be active. Makes sense.
All right. Listen, I got a bunch of other questions. So we're going to move on to round number 2 if you're ready. All right. Round number 2. How does Instagram make money? In the end of the day, I can't deposit my followers or my engagement or my likes or my hearts, as they call them, comments, anything into the bank account. So for me, money talks, right? Because time is money. I don't have a lot of time. How do I turn followers into revenue?
Yes, the golden question. So here's the biggest key that I teach. You have to look at Instagram as a digital billboard. That's what I love, that concept. It is so powerful. It's a digital billboard. Think of a billboard. What's the purpose of a billboard? You put up an ad, people see it, and they respond to it, right? And you have some sort of call to action on there, and they call or visit a store or whatever. Instagram is no different. But what's even better is that not only is it a digital billboard, so it continues, you have your feed, right? You continue to build it out over time. But it's cool because you get to build an identity around it. Whereas like a billboard on the street, it's hard to build like a brand or an identity and connect with people because you just have so much space and they just, fly by it on the road. But with Instagram, you get to build an identity. You get to build a following of people that truly love who you are, what you do, and what you're about. Russell Brunson, and you guys probably know him, he talks about building a cult-like following. And just overall in life, and I take that philosophy and apply it directly to Instagram because it's true. When you actually do have a culture of people, 1,000 people or so that just love every aspect of who you are, what you do, what you talk about, when you offer something, they're going to purchase it. So looking at it overall as a digital billboard. And then the second thing is you have to understand that you need to have what's called like a gateway. And so what that means is having a link in your bio, for example, is a gateway that allows your followers to go from Instagram's platform through the gateway of your link and then to your store, to your funnel or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. Now, obviously, there are a ton of little like nuances and little things in terms of like call to actions and different ways of setting up your bio and in your captions and your stories. Tons of different ways of like how to actually go about driving traffic. But you have to know those basic concepts first. If you don't have it set up on the front end where you have the digital billboard concept and you don't have the right content, and then you don't have like a gateway to get them there, and then you don't have a back end to fulfill on, then no matter what else I say, it's not going to work, right? Those are kind of the key components that you have to have in order to make any money. And then, and then without getting into the specifics, or we can obviously, but the last thing I would say, and I'll kind of throw it back to you, is of course you have to have a compelling offer. You have to have something that's related to your brand and your following. If you're in the fitness world, then sell something that has to do with, why do you think all the fitness people, they sell coaching programs and health products and, and supplements and things like that. They're not out there selling Instagram courses, because it's not related to the brand identity that they've built. And so, obviously, like for you would be selling all the different stuff that you offer through Lurn in your company. And so, so that's, Instagram's a gold mine. You just got to do it the right way.
Makes sense. So use it. I like that. The word gateway. That was really good. Basically, don't treat it as a billboard and a place to get someone to click into your gateway. And then they're on your platform and you do with them what you want.
Exactly.
And convert them into a buyer. Brilliant. Well, I've been kind of eager and ready to get to round number 3 because that's the favorite question I've been wanting to ask. So let's move right into round number 3. This is what I've been wanting to ask you. I'm at 25,000. I want to hit 1 million. Do your magic, Alex. What do I do?
So kind of like what we were talking about on that call that you mentioned, I'll kind of break this down very quickly for people. There's really 3 like major ways that you can grow on Instagram. There are more, but these are kind of the 3 main ways. The first is, kind of like a month-to-month program that a lot of people offer. It's something that we offer as well. This isn't going to scale you to 1 million. This is basically the consistent growth where you're just seeing a couple thousand new followers that are targeted, that are active, that are coming over to your account, and you're growing. This is for the person that just, they want to hit 10K, they want to get the swipe up, they want to get to 50K eventually. And they're happy with just consistent growth or bringing in some business and, what all is good. So that's kind of the first way. Then the second way, the next option, I guess you could say, is what's called like influencer campaigns. This is still really big. This used to be extremely, extremely powerful and a lot bigger back in the day. The algorithm on Instagram has definitely tightened and made it a lot harder to do this. But this is how like people like Gary Vee, for example, this is how he got big. This is like a millionaire mentor, Jason Stone, like how these guys got huge was 3, 4, 5 years ago when the algorithm wasn't as hard. They would go and approach the big guys in the space, the people who had the millions, the influencers in that market, and they would pay them for promotion. And it's just organic shout outs. It's paying somebody and then they take your account and they promote for it on their platform. And if you have millions and millions of followers, obviously that drives traffic over to your page. And now the thing is that this still definitely works. People do this all the time. I do this for people all the time. The only downside to it now is that it can get pretty pricey and it's not as effective. So it takes a lot longer than it used to. But that's just, that's how it works. Supply and demand. It's just the way the Instagram, they're obviously kind of pushing people more towards doing ads than influencer marketing. But that's another route you can go. And essentially the idea with it is you go gather up, I call it burst posting. We go take 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 accounts that have, 250,000 to 4 million followers and everything in between. And we create like an ad set and a caption and like a call to action to get people to actually take an action to go to the account that we're shouting out. And then we just go blast it, and we call it burst posting because what we'll do is we'll take, depending on the size of the campaign, we'll take, 1, 2, 3 days, and every single day during that entire that timeline, your account is being blasted on all of these platforms, and so people are just seeing it from all these different angles. And it's awesome. It drives a lot of people over to your account, and it's organic traffic. These people are obviously choosing to come over and follow you. So that's called influencer campaigns or influencer shout outs. That's kind of done at a macro level. Of course, you can take that down a notch and just do individual shout outs as well. And then the third way is what we talked about before as well, which is this is where you kind of get into the term like growth hacking in a legal way, I guess you could say, on Instagram. And this is what's called like viral giveaway loops. And these are amazing. I mean, these are something that, almost all the big guys in the space are doing this right now. And essentially the idea is, we have connections with massive influencers that, are YouTube stars, and they have like tens of millions of followers. And what they do is they'll give away something to their followers in exchange for their followers to go and follow the people that are tagged in the caption. So give you an example. How it works is, let's say I'm the guy doing it. I'm going to be like, hey, to my followers, hey, here's $1,000 cash, or here's a laptop or an iPhone or whatever. I'm giving this away as a prize. And in order to win the prize, what you have to do is you have to go and follow all the accounts that are tagged in the caption below. And then what we'll do is we'll take your account and we'll add it into there. And there's usually about 15, 20 slots, meaning there's about 15, 20 people that can be tagged in the caption in that post. And then the influencer just promotes that. over the course of 3-4 days, and or multiple influencers will. And what happens is you just get that viral aspect where you're getting, hundreds and then thousands and then tens of thousands of people that are commenting on it, and they're following everybody that's inside of, that's tagged inside of the post. And the results of this are pretty insane. We're actually about to do a one starting tomorrow, where in literally 4 days, everybody's going to grow around 40,000 followers, which is going to be crazy. And so obviously this is a very, very viral way to go. But just like with everything out there, of course there's pros and cons to it. And, there's different things. It just depends on who you are and what you're looking to do. But the one thing I'll say is, if you look at just about anybody that's at that 100K to $1 million mark right now, that's in the entrepreneur, world, that's really big, with the exception of a couple, they're all pretty much doing this right now. And so, cause it works, it really does work. And it's by far the fastest way to scale. So for you, that's what I would recommend, is doing a mixture of those things, especially to get to $1 million. Those giveaways are by far the most effective and efficient way to do it. And then what I always recommend people do is that you do the giveaways, but obviously that's not targeted traffic coming over. And of course you're going to lose some because they're just doing it in order to win the prize. So while you're doing that, you're also doing the influencer campaigns where you're actually getting shout outs and, and driving more organic traffic. So those are kind of the main ways. Like I said, there are some other ones as well, but, taking that and creating like a formula out of it is the best route to go.
So I got all kinds of questions. So we're going to stay in this round.
Let's do it
here. We'll go backwards because the viral giveaway loops. You said his accounts are going to grow by 40,000. My ears perked up because I'm like, I got 25,000. That would be flipping awesome. What would something like that cost?
Yeah, so usually with those, they go for about 1,000 per 10K. So that's how it works. That's usually a good judge. We usually sell them by the 10,000. Of course, if you buy more, you buy bulk, you get like a bigger one like that. There's a little bit more of a little deal in there. You can of course scale the price down a little bit. But that's generally kind of the standard, is about $1,000 a pop for 10,000 followers.
So that'd be about $4,000 and 40,000 followers. Is that correct?
Right. Exactly. But like in a case like that, we would sell that one for about 3,500 just because you're obviously buying in bulk.
Got it. And so the other question I have on that is, now, realistically speaking, now give me the real here. I worry about the quality of these people, right? Yeah. Because I'm always scared of, I own my name. So it's not like I can pivot and do a different page one day or a different profile. Right. I got to keep mine healthy. And last time I checked, I was, based on your metrics and your math, my engagement is going great. Like I got a good page. So I'm a little worried here that I do this, I buy all these people and none of them actually give a crap about my content. Am I going to be possibly putting my page at risk?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's where I kind of, I always explain that it's, some people like them and some people don't. It really just depends on, your main goal with Instagram. But what I will say is that the method that most of the people do, and what I recommend you do, is you do the giveaways to get to a solid base. So you do the giveaways to get to a number so that you have credibility, right? You're at 100,000, let's say, is where it's at. And then from there, moving forward, think into the future in 2-3 years from now, it's like if you spent a couple months doing these giveaways, you scale up, you have the credibility. And then over the next couple years, you're just doing shout outs, you're running ads, you're doing, all sorts of different like organic ways of actually driving targeted traffic. Well, it's going to stick a lot better because now you're an influencer, right? You have the credibility factor, but you're also now you're kind of replacing, those not so quality people with quality people. So it's not that they're fake by any means, but they're just obviously, a lot of them are international and a lot of them are younger, and they're really just following you because you're part of the giveaway. They don't necessarily care about your stuff. Some will, they'll stick around, but yeah, that's why it's you kind of do that first. You get the credibility, Instagram, social media, perception game, perception's reality. You hit that number. And once you get to that number, you kind of scale from there, doing a lot more of like the actual paid traffic where you're investing into like shout out campaigns.
Got it. All right. Makes sense. Perfect. Let's move on to the influencer campaigns. So you also used a term called shout outs. I just wanted everyone to hear that it's two in the same. If you do an influencer campaign / shout outs, it's the same. What kind of cost can we expect there? Because that always sounds interesting, because at least those people are proactively following you and they're obviously interested in some content on a page that you chose to have a shout out done. Right. what because over here on the viral, I was expecting about, it came out to about 10 cents a follower, which is great, obviously with its own problems there. But what about on influencers? If I went out tomorrow and I said, Alex, here you go, here's an unlimited budget, like what do you think it would be to get per follower roughly?
Yeah. So, and that one's hard because it, being that it is organic and they're just choosing to follow you because they saw your account posted, your account comes into play a lot, obviously too. If you're starting at 0, it's going to be a lot harder to send people there than if you got a base of 25K, or if you're verified versus not verified, or, the brand you have, it all plays a role. And so back in the day, you used to be able to actually give an exact number. Like we used to sell it at, all right, it's a quarter a follower, 50 cents a follower. But nowadays with the algorithm, it really just isn't even fair to say like exactly a number. But what I can, so instead of doing it like that, the metric that I kind of give people instead is, as opposed to like, hey, here's, you pay, let's say $1,000 and I'm going to get you, X amount of followers. Instead of doing it like that, how we kind of structure it and what most people do is, for like $1,000, we can get you on roughly like 4 to 6, different brands that have over 250,000 followers, and we'll promote you through those brands. But we can't really give an exact number in terms of growth, just because it truly is, it's just that hard. Like that Instagram really doesn't like that as much anymore. And so it's a lot more difficult to grow accounts. But in terms of like scalability or, payments, things like that, it really is infinite. It's totally up to you. So we have entrepreneurs, some of that, that's all they do. They just dump hundreds of thousands of dollars into that stuff, constantly, just paying, people like myself to promote for them. And then you got other people that do more individual campaigns that are like, hey, I got $1,000 or I got $5,000 or whatever it is. And then we kind of give them the metrics of like, all right, cool. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how many accounts, here's the ad, we kind of help them more with that side of things. But I've seen pages, where they'll get solid returns. They'll put $1,000, $2,000 in and, they'll grow by a couple thousand followers. But then you got other people that do the same thing and, they'll grow by a couple hundred. And that's why it's just so unpredictable, just because of the type of account that we're working with plays such a factor.
So the best case scenario would be around, it sounded like the number I pulled out was like $1 a follower.
Yeah, I would say so. Somewhere around there, give or take a little bit.
Got it. And you mentioned a couple of times, and I wanted to clarify this. You said, because Instagram doesn't like it as much, or Instagram has kind of limited it. My question to you is that you basically saying that Instagram has dropped organic, like, reach of content like Facebook did? Because Facebook destroyed my page. I mean, I post stuff and barely nobody sees it.
Yeah.
So is that what you're saying? Like Instagram's doing the same thing? They're following suit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're owned by Facebook, so you got to think same strategy. They want you to use the ads, so absolutely. It's sad, but it is. That's what they're doing. It's not quite to the level of Facebook, but it will come.
Lord Zuckerberg, pay him.
I know, right?
Got to pay the man. All right. Interesting. And then you said something that was month to month. What's that all about? How do I do ads to grow I know I can do ads and then they can click and go off to do stuff. That's a whole nother world. But
right.
How do I do ads to grow my following?
Yeah, so we actually don't mess with that too much, just because it actually is pretty difficult in order to do that, because you really have to have your account needs to be set up the right way. Like, doing ads for someone like, like a Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, would be super easy because it's like the guy has so much content, and he's got a lot of value and he has a huge account. But if you're trying to run ads from scratch to your own page and you're just trying to get followers, it really is a difficult thing to do. And actually what we found that works the best when you're running with ads is you actually are doing something, you're giving something of value, typically for free. But what you do is you drive the ad so that in order for them to receive the gift or to get whatever it is you're giving them, they have to come over to your account. So we did an ad, for example, where it's like, hey, swipe up, here's what I'm offering, swipe up and shoot me a DM if you're interested, and it's like, sure, you'll get some leads, you'll get some business, but you have a bunch of people swiping up and it just takes them right to your profile and then they're following you. But to be honest, we haven't done ads a whole lot, like I said, but from my experience with it, especially while it's still around, influencer marketing and these other approaches that I've explained, really are the way to go until they kind of, truly do shy away from that completely. So yeah.
That's awesome. So for me, you would suggest a combination of influencer and viral. Do you still, I mean, I have a platform of 25,000. You still think I should do the viral giveaways to get to like 100,000 first and then double down on the influencer stuff?
Personally, yeah. Just because you're going to get there in the matter of, a month or two, as opposed to, the other route where it's going to take a lot longer. And that 100K mark, really just, it kind of is that like staple point of like, all right, this guy's legit, and it's just the way it works, and especially my generation and the one coming up, it's like, that's what they look for. They look for that number. And so, having that right there it's going to help you a lot.
So right now, when I do a story, we've been actually pretty decent thanks to the team here. But I think the last one I saw, we did like 1,400 views of the story on 25,000. So that works out to, I don't know, is that 5%? Probably, roughly.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah. It's about a little over 5%. Let's say I hit it with a couple of strong viral giveaway loops and I get to 100,000. Could I expect that 5% to drop, or do you usually see it kind of stay around the same, or would it go down like by half? Any idea? Like, what would I expect?
Yeah. So again, different for everyone. But what definitely will happen is while you're doing these giveaways, your overall, like, everything is going to go up, like your engagement, everything across the board, impressions, overall, just reach of your account, everything's going to skyrocket because you have tens of thousands of people coming to your page. But then as soon as they stop, obviously you're going to have like a drastic drop off. And then, you'll kind of bounce back to where you're at right now is generally what happens. And then you kind of build from there.
Okay. So I should still be able to stabilize around the 5% viewing my stories.
Assuming the algorithm doesn't change.
Well, yeah, we don't know what Lord Zuckerberg will do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that stuff, it gets crazy sometimes.
All right. Awesome. I don't mean, that was some pretty golden nuggets of knowledge right there. Starting to put together my little strategy in my head. So that's awesome. All right. Well, let's keep moving, because the next piece I want to talk to you about is probably the piece that troubles me the most. So let's move into round number 4. All right, round number 4. So you can already feel kind of my energy dragging on this one, because this is the question. What is expected of me, man? How many posts? What do I got to do? I can't walk around my phone all day long connected. Like, I'm not Gary Vee. If a cameraman follows me around, I'm going to punch him in the face. I promise. I'm not that social, but yeah. So I'm being selfish here. Like, I'm not that social, but I want the benefits of the social. So give me like the bare bone basic, like, Anik, you got to be able to do at least this much posting in order for Instagram to be useful for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the cool thing with when it comes to content is the way in terms of growth. So with the giveaways, for example, you could literally not do anything and we could get you to 100K. But moving from there, obviously you need to do something. So when it comes to growth, it's not really going to matter in that aspect. But with the influencer campaigns, the shout outs where you're going through the big accounts, that's a different game. That's definitely a lot more hands-on. You do need to have content coming out. If you watch guys like Gary or like Dan Locke, those guys, they're putting out content just left and right. And the reason for that is because they're basically ranking in the algorithm. So they're just, every time they're putting stuff out, they're ranking in top hashtags because they have so much content, so much exposure coming over that it just continues to elevate. And they realize the more that they put out, the bigger, the faster they're going to grow organically. And so there's definitely some upside to being able to do that. Of course, it's pretty, they have full blown teams around them that are doing that 24/7. So it's, not for everybody. The thing when it comes to content is that what I always tell people is that no matter what, as long as you're just posting one time a day, once every other day, you're going to see results. That's more than the average person. But if you really want to hit it and you're doing, those shout out campaigns, you're running ads, like you're doing that kind of stuff, you really should be doing, 2, 3, 4 times a day, as much as you can to just blast the feed, to really get exposure as much as possible. And Instagram is going to reward you. They reward activity. And as you grow, the more you do it, you're reaching more and more people. And so for you, being at 25,000, honestly, if you could do twice a day, you did like a post, a video, something like that. That even, like I said, even once a day would be good. But with the feed itself, 1 to 2 times a day is really solid. And then with your story, I always recommend with your story that you don't necessarily put a time frame or like an amount on it rather, but you put more of just like you get in the habit of kind of using it to give a little bit of perspective of your life, you know, and you're bringing value to your followers, and you kind of just get in the habit of using it all the time, where you have, you know, you wake up and you jump on there for 15, 20, 30 seconds and you just give a little tip of the day or something. And then maybe in the afternoon you put up like a quote, or, you know, you post whatever your newest post is in your feed, you put it up in your story, and just little things like that to constantly keep it going. Because the thing with the story is that it obviously is a 24-hour cycle. And so as soon as it's done, it's done. And what happens is when you don't have a story, your thing's not lit up and it's not at the front of the feed anymore of followers, you know, and you don't want that. You want people to constantly be seeing that, you know, that story. And then they get into the habit of now they click on your story and they're used to kind of going into like a story loop or a story hole, you know, where they're just going through and there's like 30, 40 stories in a row and it's all you, and, you know, and they get trapped in that in a good way. But that's a very, very, very effective tool to really help scale, you know, everything that you're doing is using your story as much as you possibly can.
The story trap, man. All right. Okay. So we got videos, we got images, we got stories. This seems to be the recurrent, this is like the 3 main, we got lives also, but
right.
The 3 main types of posts are videos, images, stories. So someone puts a gun to your head, man, and they're like, you can only do one. Which of the 3 do you pick?
Probably videos on your feed. Yes. Right now, just based off the algorithm on Instagram, they're moving more towards a video platform, you know, with like IGTV, for example, launching, and videos just do better. You know, they're a lot easier to catch viral too. You know, you could easily post a video, get 2, 3, 4,000 views, and then you post one the next day and it lands, you know, in a few top hashtags, hits the Explorer page, and boom, you're at 100,000 views. And in images, it's a lot harder to do that the way that the algorithm works. And so videos are just, and also videos, they, you know, you get to the personalities there, right? I mean, obviously it's a lot easier to connect with somebody if you're on there and you're throwing down for a minute straight, you know, and your followers come over and they watch that and they see that a few times and now they're connected to you. They know you, they feel like they have that connection with your personality. Whereas like with images, it's a little bit harder to paint that, you know, or build that connection, build that cult-like following we were talking about earlier.
Makes perfect sense. Any tricks or hacks or anything for posting? Anything like any specific like template you like to use, or if I'm putting a post up, there's one thing that you make sure your clients always do. Is there any hacks that you can tell us about the actual posting?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's obviously using hashtags. You know, I feel like a lot of people know this, but I always just repeat it because a lot of people don't know it too. But you can use up to 30 hashtags, and you can post them. What I do is I have them in the notes in my phone. And whenever I post a piece of content, I paste those hashtags in the comments section of my content, of my video or the image that I posted. So I comment on my own image or video with the 30 hashtags, because what that does is it actually hides them so it looks clean, because obviously imagery is king. You want to make sure that everything looks good, and but you still get the effects of being able to show up in those hashtags. And so that's a big hack that, you know, if you're not doing that, that's just like, you got to do that. Everybody does that. And then, you know, another thing for this is kind of related specifically towards videos, but you guys have probably seen kind of the template that a lot of those guys do use, where it's like you talking and then it has like the scroll bar at the bottom, like the time bar, and it has like the words that are coming up that as you're saying it. And then there's also like a headline at the top of the video. That's a really awesome template that just works, you know, and it's been tested and proven through ads. And obviously when you see a bunch of, you know, the biggest people in this space doing that, you know, it's working. So specifically for videos, you know, having that kind of template is a really, really good thing to do as well. It just keeps people engaged, you know, like when they see the headline, that's kind of the clickbait, they click on it. And then when they can read the words, you know, it just keeps them engaged with, you know, the actual video itself. So those would be 2 tricks that I would say. And then I guess the last one that I would give is kind of more, well, I guess it's for videos and for caption, or I mean for images, but the caption is what I was going to say. I've found just throughout the years that especially with a personal brand, if you really pour into your captions and you actually do provide value, like you write a few paragraphs and you talk about a specific topic, like today I put up an image and I just talked about like vision, and what that means to you and what that is, and why it's so important to have one and things like that. And people love that stuff. They really genuinely like that when they can read something and feel good and gain something from it. So just finding ways to provide value in the form of your captions when you put up a post, I'd say that those are kind of the three, little hacks, I guess if you will, that you can use on Instagram.
That's awesome. I got a couple of questions to follow up on that. So 30 hashtags is the limit. Do you use all 30 on all posts? You do 30?
Yep. All
There's
30 every time.
Instagram doesn't get irritated that you're abusing it?
No, because it's not, you can use up to 30. That's what they allow you. So anything past that, they actually won't even post. So.
Okay. And then you said you put it in a notepad and copy and paste it into the comments.
Yeah.
I always wondered why people do it in the comments. And the last few times I've been posting, I actually started putting it in the comments just because I saw everyone doing it, but I didn't know why.
Yeah,
but you explained it. It's to keep the actual text part clean.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you don't have that, that giant paragraph of just a bunch of hashtags in your caption. It just looks so tacky.
You said you put it in a notepad and copy and paste it every single time. Do you do all your posts are the same 30 hashtags?
So yeah, that's a really good question. So I actually have an entire thing on like hashtag research and like how to do it all and everything as well, which we can talk about if you want. But with hashtags, I do. However, I'll have different sequences. So I'll switch them up. I usually write, there's no like proven timeline of when, again, this is one of those things that everybody kind of has their own different philosophy with. What I recommend is you have 30, like 2 or 3 sets of 30 hashtags each. And they're all different in those sets, and you just kind of rotate through those. But I'll be honest, I've used the same 30. I've gotten lazy with it, multiple times, or I just didn't do that, and they always seem to work, So I don't think it's a big deal, but you can't hurt, switching them up.
Brilliant. All right, and then you said like the caption that you're referring to, that's the text that goes along with it, not like the scripting at the bottom of the video. That's actually like the text area. And, it's funny that you said that because I don't do this. You said, hey, take some time to actually write some paragraphs there, like actually communicate. People read them. People actually read them on Instagram. Okay,
yeah, the cult followers will. The ones that you're trying to get after, the ones that you really want. And what you just said is why it's such a powerful tactic, though, because most people don't. Most people don't actually take any time and put it into there. And so the ones that do, as they're growing their brand, those people slowly start, it's just a numbers game. And you get 100,000 people that come over and, 20, 30,000 of them actually sit down and read that stuff. Well, those are your buyers. Those are the ones that are going to, buy from you down the road.
It's awesome. Man, brilliant. Well, I do want to move into another round. I moved things around because you gave me a clue there. You gave me something I do want to hear about. So let's move into round number 5. Round number 5. Hashtag research. What's hashtag research? Tell me all about it. Because I just make stuff up when I'm posting. I don't know what hashtags. I don't know how to find them. How do I do hashtag research?
Yes, great question. So, very, very powerful tool that I've given to a lot of people, and it really does help. So, there's a couple different names for it. I like to call it the 1/3 rule. So what that means is you take the 30 hashtags and you break it into thirds. So you got 10, 10, and 10. What you're going to do is, the idea with hashtags is the only reason why you use them, other than, I guess you could make the argument for branding. Of course, I'll use hashtag vision wall every time in my caption, just for branding purposes, but that's just one. But the other 29, the only reason you even use them is to gain exposure. That's it. There's no other reason to use hashtags. And so you want to obviously find the most effective way to gain that exposure for your account. And so what you do is you're going to do a little market research. You're going to figure out, well, okay, which hashtags make the most sense for where I'm at? Because here's the thing. This is a mistake that I made for years on Instagram. I was using the same hashtags that people with 1 million followers were using when I had 10,000 followers. And that's just a stupid thing to do, because I'm never going to rank in those hashtags. I'm going to get outbeat every single time. And what I mean by that is, if you click on a hashtag on Instagram, you'll notice that there's 2 columns, 2 sections. There's a top, and then there's a recent. The top is really what matters. What that means is that that's the top posts within that specific selected hashtag. So let's say hashtag business, for example. You go there, you type in hashtag business. The top section, all of those posts right there are the ones that are ranking within the top, meaning that everybody in that hashtag is seeing those posts. Okay. So your goal is to get in those top posts. You want to get in the top feed of whatever hashtags you're using. And so the way that you do this is you break it into thirds and you do kind of a staircase system. So what you do is you take that first set of 10. So you're going to take 10 hashtags and you're going to go find hashtags that are, number one, related to your market that you're going for. So if you're an entrepreneur building a personal brand, obviously you'd find hashtags that are related to that. But here's the thing is that you want to find hashtags in this first section of 10 that have 10,000 to 100,000 like users or posts. I forget exactly what they say, but if you click on a hashtag on Instagram, it'll show you how many times it's been like tagged, and they'll show you how big essentially the tag is. And so what you want to do is, if you're, again, going back to the example of personal brand, for this first set of 10, you don't want to use hashtag entrepreneur because that has, 10 plus million people that are using it. The chances of you ranking in that are extremely difficult. So what you'd want to do is find related hashtags, entrepreneur lifestyle, let's say. I don't know how big that one is, but just as an example, let's say that one has, 50,000. Okay. And that, again, that number is when you click on the hashtag, it shows, there's that number there. And so that's what you're looking for. So you're going to build out 10 hashtags that are within that 10,000 to 100,000 range, because these ones, you're not going to get a ton of exposure, but it is some exposure and it's consistent exposure. It allows you, and when you rank in hashtags, it also helps the algorithm, helps kind of boost you up into other tags. That's why it's called a staircase system. So you're going to have 10 tags that are all related to your brand, that are all kind of within that 10,000 to 100,000 mark. That's your first set. Then your next set of 10, you're literally going to do the exact same thing, but you're going to find hashtags that are just a little bit bigger. I usually recommend like, 250,000 to 1 million. Okay. Somewhere in there, a little bit harder to get into. You get into a few of them, you land a few of them, you rank up in the top, you get some exposure. And then your next set of 10, these are where the big ones are going to be. These are going to be 1 million plus. And what I like to do is take that last set of 10 and break it into 5 and 5. Actually, technically 4 and 5. I'll explain that in a second. But you're going to take 5 of them, and they're going to be like 1 million to 5 million. And then you're going to take another 5, and these are going to be your big ones. So what most people do is they take all 30, and they use the biggest hashtags possible, and you don't want that. You want to take about 5 and use the biggest hashtags possible, because you still want to have those in there. Because I've seen accounts that have 1,000 followers, and they rank up in a hashtag that has 200 million, people using it, and they go viral. And you'll never hit that if you don't have that in there, right? So you want to have the big ones, the hashtag business, money, whatever it is, again, related to you. But the reason why I said 5 and then 4 for that last set of 10 is because if you heard me at the beginning, I like to always coach that you have one hashtag that's branded to you. So maybe for you, it's, hashtag Lurn, and that's your tag every time. And that specific tag as well, you're not going to put that one in the comments. You're going to put that one in the actual caption at the bottom. Because it's a branding element that you're going to have that just kind of, helps brand your name and your account over time. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea. You have your first set of 10, they're a little bit, they're lower ones, easier to get into. Your next set of 10, making 20 total, kind of in that middle ground. And then your third set of 10, breaking it into half, 5 being like 1 million to 5 million. And then the other 4 being whatever, the biggest you can find, 100 million plus. And then 1 that's like branded to you. So that's the idea. And then you go and you post those and you kind of find, tags that are all within there. And the last little thing I'll say too is people always ask, well, how can I find these hashtags? If you go and you start with a big one, like hashtag business, again, for example, you'll see right below it, they always give you related options, like related hashtags. And so that's how you can find them. They'll say like business men, business women, things like that. And those are always going to be a lot like smaller, and you can start like clicking through them, and it's just, you can get lost in there. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's the idea. That's how you do your hashtag research.
That's awesome, man. Wow. That was a huge nugget. I hope you took that away. That's some cool stuff right there that we've never heard before. I've never heard that before, and I've been doing this stuff for 15 years. I've been in online marketing. So that right there was worth the entire episode. Thank you so much. Yeah, listen, Alex, it's been awesome, man. It's been just tremendous. I've learned so much. I want to ask you one question for our viewers, because I know they're wondering this. Where can people go? Where can our fighting entrepreneurs go to get more Alex? Where can they go to learn from you, to buy your stuff, give you money, and show up at your house?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously being Instagram, I gotta do it on Instagram. You guys can go to my, my personal account, which is just at Vision Wall, one word, Vision Wall. And you guys can go there, you know, and on there, there's a lot of different options. You can obviously email me from there. You can shoot me a direct message from there. You can go to my website that's, you know, in the bio on there. All the different contact options are on there. And then, yeah, I mean, we have, you know, courses and ebooks and all sorts of really cool tools and things that you guys can do. And then a lot of this stuff, you know, that I talked about today with you is more directly through me. It's not something you just go to a website and buy, because it's kind of customized for each individual person. So if you guys are interested in anything you heard today, definitely come reach out and we'll get connected.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. And guys, go find him at the @ symbol on Instagram, Vision Wall. Go there right now, connect with him, learn more from him. What a genius, what a brilliant mind. He's worked with the biggest brands. We're going to be doing a lot with him soon too, so make sure you do as well. Remember, if you want show notes from today, go to anikpodcast.com, ANIKPODCAST.com. In case you were driving, jogging, or just staring at a wall during the time that you were listening to this podcast, we'll take care of the note-taking for you. So go there to grab the notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, do us a favor. Come on. Click subscribe, hit the little bell so that you get notifications when we post new episodes up, and leave us a comment below. Let's send some love to Alex. He gave us an hour of his time teaching us for free. So let's say thank you. And why don't you post something that you really learned, that you loved? That way Alex can go read it, and maybe we'll get him to reply to stuff too. So make sure you leave a comment below. Make sure you go to iTunes, click subscribe, leave us a amazing, awesome, stellar 5-star review, please. That would be great. With that said, Alex, I just have one last round of rapid fire questions for you, if you have just a couple minutes there. All right, here we go. Rapid fire round. Instagram ads, worth it or not?
Unless you're trying to sell something specifically towards a funnel, I would say no.
Okay, but I meant it in for funnels. So yes for funnels?
Oh, yeah. If you're doing it towards a funnel, yeah. And you have a low ticket item or a webinar, yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. Question number 2, outside of Instagram, what's better, having a following on Facebook or YouTube?
YouTube for sure.
All right, that's what I thought. Question number 3, if you had to start from zero, nothing, what's the very first one thing you would do to get back into business?
In related to Instagram or just in general?
Anything, just to get yourself back.
I would definitely go find whoever's killing it in whatever industry that I want to be a part of, and I would find a way to contact them, study what they're doing, and launch from there. Mentorship is huge.
We get this a lot. This has been a recurring trend. I like it. Yeah. It's that network, get out. It's always about meet someone.
Yes.
That's the answer. Number 4, what's one crazy thing you've done in your life that most don't know about?
So I'll give you 2 quick things. Number 1, this wasn't a conscious choice, but when I was a little kid, I got bit by a copperhead snake and had to get rushed to the hospital and almost had my foot amputated. So that was crazy. Obviously didn't choose to do that. That was pretty cool. And then, one thing I did choose to do, a crazy thing, was when I was in, late high school, I went on a road trip with some buddies, and I got one of those nylon morph suits. If you guys know what those are, the one color suits. And I got on Good Morning America in Times Square, New York, the day that they announced that we killed Osama bin Laden. I was on the front page of that. So it was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That's all right. Hey, you had your part in, making sure Osama bin Laden is.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. All right. Last question. What is one thing you would tell yourself if you could go back 10 years and talk to yourself?
So for me, 10 years, I'm about 27, so 17. So at that time I wasn't an entrepreneur yet. So for me personally, I would have told myself to pick up some quality books sooner. I used to hate reading, even audios and books, anything to do with learning. I associated it with school and just didn't really think it was worth it. But little did I know that there's just so much gold in the form of books and audios and podcasts like this, and so I would have told myself to, find some people that I relate with, that I resonate with, that are successful, and start studying, man. Start learning, what they're doing, and realize that, there's the secrets are there. You just got to go find them.
Man, tremendous. Thank you so much, Alex. It has been a action-packed powerhouse session. Listen, for you that is listening, go take action. Get over to anikpodcast.com, get your notes, and we'll see you on another Fighting Entrepreneur podcast episode. This is Anik Singal signing off, reminding you, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.